What's up, Chiefs Kingdom? Carlton Flowers here with Family Sports Network.
Yay!
And tonight we have got to knock down this Christmas Day game between the Chiefs and the Raiders. And this is a tough one to talk about. It's not the outcome that I expected. These points that I'm going to make in this video are not the ones that I expected to be bringing to the table to you. But we're going to have to talk about it. So in this video, we're going to talk about the good from this game. There was some good. We're going to talk about the bad. And then we're going to keep it moving and look forward to what we have in the future, what's to come. And then I'm going to give you my final assessment. So in this Raiders game, what the heck happened to the Kansas City Chiefs offense? What happened to our Chiefs in the first quarter? They were on vacation. You know, we've been waiting game after game after game saying that, okay, they're getting it together. It's not too late. They're fixing things. It's late in the season. This is where everything is going to start to click. And then we end on this game today where it looks like the bad news bears, not the Kansas City Chiefs finishing out December as they traditionally have in the last 4 years. This is the worst winter that we've had, of course, in the Patrick Mahomes era, where we put up negative yards in the first quarter, negative 18 yards in the first quarter. We had turnovers. We had 2 touchdowns off of turnovers in a span of 7 seconds. Wow. We actually shut down the Raiders after the first quarter. They had no passing game, but the Raiders saved the game with their defensive play, and the rushing game late at the end of the game. Okay, so let's go ahead and cover the good and the bad. So the good things, there were some things that I was really impressed about the game. Number one is the person who I give the game ball to, which is Clyde Edwards-Helaire. All 4 foot 10 inches of him. He was amazing. He has true grit, and I think that he has shown his values. Let me know in the comments, do you think CEH has shown his value to the Chiefs, and do you think that they should bring him back? This is his contract year. This is it for him, potentially. But do you think that he has shown them that he is a valuable part of this backfield? I think he has. I mean, Pacheco looked really good too. He was running hard. He had a very tough running game that did not produce a lot of yards, but you know, overall, Patrick Mahomes rushed for 40 or 50 yards. So the running game was okay. All right. The receiving game was not horrible. I mean, we had a 50% catch rate. I only remember one drop. I think it was the first Kelsey drop. I don't remember any other drops that were like absurd, kind of like that game-ending drop by MVS against the Buffalo Bills. And Richie James, he looked really good. I think he continues to come up. We also, we had a nice trick play. We had the Tommy Townsend fake punt. I know some people might want to put that into the bad column, but we'll get to that next. And then Justin Watson, he looked pretty good. He had that touchdown catch. And we did kind of mix it up with several different receivers. And so besides the errant passes, I think we can say that the receivers at least got a C+ to a B- in this game. We can't blame the loss on the receivers. So now moving on to the bad. And we'll start out with the Tommy Townsend fake punt. Well, why is that bad, do you ask? I mean, Tommy completed a pass. Well, the reason why it's bad is we should never have come to that. Since when do the Chiefs have to go for it on 4th down so many times? I mean, we failed to convert on the 4th down and 6 yards in the red zone, ending on an incomplete pass trying to get the ball to Rashee Rice. So when have we been forced into so many 4th down conversions? I don't remember a time. But the first quarter, of course, with that negative 18 yards, that was the worst quarter of an NFL team since the year 2011. Now, who would have thought that the high-flying Kansas City Chiefs would break a reverse record? You know, we're thinking, okay, this year they're going to be breaking all kinds of offensive records in yards, touchdowns, third down conversions, maybe fourth down conversions, not negative yards for a quarter. So by the end of that quarter, I was completely in shock. I was like, this is not going to end well. But they hung in there, and each time that they hung in and had a chance to get back into the game, they just fell short. And so what was it? Is it that the timing of the receivers is off? Is that it? We did notice that Patrick Mahomes is holding on to the ball a long time on several plays. And why was he doing that? Because there were open receivers. But I've heard talk where some analysts were saying that, yeah, receivers were getting open, but not in the right timing, in the right sequence, where, you might have MVS getting open 2 seconds after the first read, when the first read he's supposed to be open, and he's not. So then Mahomes has to go to the second read, that person's not open. On to the third read, that person's not open, and then he's scrambling. And then after the fact, after you're making these reads, if they scramble around and get open, there's no guarantee he's going to go back, because he's got to go through that progression. Receiver A, receiver B, receiver C, scramble, okay, or throw the ball away to avoid taking a sack. So I think that we did have problems with timing. And although Mahomes had that sketchy pass on the pick six, I think that it probably could be more the part of the receivers and not the quarterback, as far as them not being in the right place at the right time. Because there were a couple of plays, I know you saw Rashee Rice on one play where it just flat looked like he was shocked because he knew he wasn't in the right place at the right time. And he kind of shifted. He had his hands open like, oops, I wasn't supposed to be here. I was supposed to be like 5 foot over to this side. And the ball, you could tell, was thrown like 4 or 5 feet to his right. And he ran past that spot where he was supposed to receive the ball. So maybe the timing's off. I don't know. Another thing that I think goes in the bad column, sketchy play calling. Why are we calling that complex, crazy play? I know some of the commentators like to call it the Chiefs getting cute. I hate it when they say that. There go the Chiefs getting cute again with these little cute plays. But it's become a problem. Rather than just stuffing that ball up the middle, why are we getting complex when we're fumbling and bumbling around like this? Like, the timing is off, the handoff was off, and it just seemed like everybody's head wasn't screwed on right and they were not in sync. But that was kind of like the whole first half. The second half was a little bit better. But it seems like this is the way that we would expect them to be in a slump during the beginning of the season, within the first, say, 8 games in the first half of the season, not down the stretch. Usually down the stretch, the good teams become in sync. The timing gets better. The routes are run better. They start to click, okay, in the second half of the season. But we look like we're going backwards. They actually looked like Larry, Curly, and Moe out there. In fact, Larry, Curly, and Moe, if you're a big Three Stooges fan, I think their synchronicity was way better than the Chiefs tonight, because it took a lot of practice for them to pull off those complex stunts while they're beating each other up. I mean, the timing was impeccable. So we're not even on the level of the Three Stooges with the offense. I mean, I hate to say that, but it's true. So next on the list of the bad, after the sketchy play calling and the complex play fumble, how about the Kelce meltdown? What was going on with Kelce throwing his helmet again? How many games do we have to see a meltdown by a major player on the Chiefs roster? I mean, several games ago, we saw Chris Jones going at it with the defensive assistant coach, to the point where the coach takes his not the iPad, Windows, whatever device it is, and slams it on the ground, breaks it up. And then, of course, we saw the epic Mahomes meltdown in the Buffalo game. And now we have Travis Kelce meltdown. I was watching a few videos, and there's some reports that are saying that the reason why he popped off like that is because he was upset that he was not involved in the fourth down fake punt play. Now, that's really bad. to see this happening this late in the season, that tempers are flaring like this. We did see Patrick Mahomes kind of screaming, yelling, lecturing the line during the first half. But then I think for the most part, he kind of kept his composure. But then Kelsey does his job and replaces him, having the hissy fit meltdown of the game. That kind of scares me because the tempers are flaring and the frustration seems to be growing. So what else did we have? Of course, we had the missed kick. Butker, who was perfect until last week, and we thought, well, he got his one miss in. That's it. They're going to be fine for the rest of the season and playoffs. And he misses another kick. Kind of sad. And then the next couple of things I have here, which is on one player who just happens to be Marquez Valdes-Scantling, MVS. Did you see the last video that I did on MVS? Where I was posing the question of, is MVS squatting on a receiver position? In other words, is he taking up space when he really should be riding the bench? And now we get to today's game. After I did that entire video on MVS, and in my opinion, he needs to be cut next year. But did you see the lazy play, his lazy action on the pick six play? Go back and watch that and tell me if you don't notice the fact that it looks like he was just kind of jogging and gave up. And there was a couple of other plays when Mahomes was scrambling and it looked like things were kind of going downhill really quick, where it kind of just looked like MVS was out there jogging like, oh, well, this one ain't going to happen. I'm going to just stop running. Did you notice that? Post in the comments and tell me if that's the impression you got, that MVS had given up on that play early. Okay, and here's the big one. Here's the big one. And this is from not just bad, this is ugly. What about the play when MVS gets called for lining up offsides? Are you serious? I mean, we're lucky that play didn't end up in a touchdown or a long reception. It was I believe, incomplete pass. But MVS actually got called for lining up offsides. Now, you would think, after what happened to Kadarius Toney, the embarrassment of the year of the NFL, the most embarrassing play for an NFL receiver this year, you would think that as many times as the sports broadcasters have been saying, well, it's the receiver's responsibility to point to the ball and ask the referee, am I good? You would think that Andy Reid would have pounded that into every one of those receivers' heads, not just Kadarius Toney. And what does MVS do? He lines up off sides. Oh, man. I think that's kind of the worst thing. That was the worst mental play, in my opinion, because it just kind of says that their heads are not in the game. And there's a certain laziness, a lazy aspect of their attitude. And it sure doesn't look good after that last interview that MVS did, where he blamed the reporter for his shortcomings this season. Now, the last thing on the bad list, which wasn't his fault, but ouch, Pacheco getting his head kicked in. Getting his head kicked in after his helmet goes flying off. And was it twice? Once in this game and maybe in the game before last? He lost his helmet twice. I can't remember if it was twice in this game or not. But it ain't the first time. I'm thinking, oh, dear God, Pacheco, cut your hair, man. Go bald, do something. That helmet needs to fit, because I don't like that. I don't like to see something like this happen. It's always scary when a player loses his helmet during a play. And you don't normally see the most unfortunate thing happen that we saw in this game, where he loses his helmet and then gets kneed in the head and sustains a concussion. I mean, talk about bad luck. That's awful. So hopefully they will get that helmet fixed or make some adjustments or cut that hair. And be careful, young man. Oh my gosh, just be careful. You hate to see that. All right, so looking forward. Let's look forward. This game's over. We got to bury it. We learned a lot of things here. There was some good and there was a lot of bad. But on the list of looking forward, number one is the new goal to just make the playoffs. I mean, we're not a lock. We got 2 games left. We're not a lock. Should we just hope and pray that we can be a wild card team? I don't think that we're going to be able to get that number 1 seed. I think with the Ravens winning tonight against San Francisco, which is a whole nother topic, that's an amazing game. I believe they've got the number 1 seed locked up. So this would be the first time that Chiefs have to play in that first round and will not be guaranteed home field playoffs all throughout. And it's kind of tough, after 4 straight years of being spoiled, where all of the playoffs games for the Chiefs are right there in good old, trustable, dependable Arrowhead here at home. Well, not this year. Next, the next 2 games. All right, so we're playing teams with backup quarterbacks. We've got the Cincinnati Bengals coming to town, where my first cousin's nephew plays for the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm going to talk about that in my next video. I'll reveal to you who he is. He's a starter, and he plays on the defense. They've got a backup quarterback who has been on a hot streak, but they did lose to my Steelers. So there are a few cracks. There are a few cracks there, but there's no guarantee that just because you're playing these teams with the backup quarterbacks, because the other backup for the Chargers actually put a pretty good game together in their loss. So we can't just say that these are gimmies. They're no longer gimmies. After what we saw happen today, we don't know what can happen. So we're kind of crossing our fingers there, but I think that listening to Patrick Mahomes in the post-game interview, he's definitely taking these next 2 games serious, and he knows that either one of these teams can come in here and put a solid game together, and that's good to know because he's being humble and realistic, very realistic. Okay, next, looking forward, is the wide receiver experiment officially over? I think it is. I think it is. I mean, yeah, we did have Kadarius Toney hurt and not in this game, which they probably needed him. We didn't have McCole Hardman, rather. We did not have Sky Moore, and that kind of left us a little thin, even though our receivers did, for the most part, do good, but we still had MVS in there. But going forward, I think that this is the end of the experiment. They're going to have to bring somebody in, and who might that be? I don't know. I think it's time to start talking to Mike Evans. Put that high on the list of things that we need to do in the offseason. Bring Mike Evans over. I mean, he's an older guy, but he's a veteran. He's dependable. He's still got capability. He's still got a step. While we're kind of debating whether or not Travis Kelce is losing a step, I think it would be good to bring in a big guy like Mike Evans, at least. And I think that next year we could probably depend on the fact that Rashee Rice is going to be wide receiver number 1. And if we cut some of the dead weight, then go after some UDFAs and maybe pick up a receiver in the draft, I think that they'll be okay. But we can't say that this experiment is officially over. All right, so who are the Chiefs going to part ways with after the season is over? What's going to happen? Well, we know which receivers that they are going to part ways with. But in order to fix this receiving core, what's going to happen on defense? Can they keep Chris Jones and Snead? I don't know. Are they going to be able to get everybody signed that they need to get signed to keep that defense top notch like it is right now? It's a delicate balancing game because to fix the defense, we had to go cheap on the receiving core, even though one of them they overspent for. So maybe they can make that up by cutting that one individual. But it is a balancing act. It is a balancing act. Okay, so offensive coaching staff. Are they missing Eric Bieniemy? The one thing I can say is that we have seen more meltdowns than last year. Now that Bieniemy is gone, they used to talk about how Bieniemy was too hard on the players. But now that you have removed that strict disciplinarian out of the lineup, now it's the players that are losing their heads. So are we missing something in that offensive coaching staff? Are we going to see a shakeup in the offensive coaching staff? I think we're going to see a shakeup. I really do. But we'll have to wait until the end of the season before that reveals itself. So the final assessment. In the final assessment, what do we have? Well, we've got a tired and beat up Chiefs team, very tired and beat up. Travis Kelce has taken his lumps this year, and he does look tired. If you just looked at Mahomes' expressions late in the game, I think, what was it, in the early part of the second half, when he had to scramble a couple times and he was just exhausted. The look on his face was like, oh my God, I got hit at the end of the scramble. And it's like, gee whiz, I need a break. I need to catch my breath here. They're tired. They're beat up. They're frustrated. And I think that this is the post-Super Bowl flu. How many times have we seen it in the past that a team comes in and crushes the Super Bowl and then the next year completely falls apart? I think that's what we are seeing. In addition to that, we're seeing an AFC West that's balancing out. Even the Chargers, as bad of a season that your record shows, really they did pretty well. I mean, they'd win one, lose one, win one, lose one, and having key injuries in the end of the season, pretty much they've got the talent. Denver went from the garbage dumpster to looking like they wanted to make a run into the playoffs. They gave a lot of tough games. They won some big games that they weren't expected to win. And then, of course, we got the Raiders coming out of nowhere after a massive shakeup and a firing of the head coach. And here they are with Antonio Pierce winning games and looking like they want to go rolling into the playoffs. But all in all, it's not over yet. All hope isn't lost. It's not over yet. There is a possibility, even though it's a long shot, that they can get their act together and figure it out. It does look like we're on the downhill slide. The momentum is moving away from us. We look less organized, less synchronized, less on point than we were earlier in the season. But it doesn't mean that they can't get it together. I want to know what your opinion is. Do you think it's too late for the Chiefs? Do you think that we ought to just take a knee on every play from here on out and skip the playoffs? What if they did that? Just take a knee on every play. Take a loss. Take the L. Don't get anybody else hurt. Don't let Pacheco get his head kneed in anymore. Don't let Mahomes get hurt. Let's just tank so we can move up the lines for the draft and pick us up some draft day steals. Maybe that's the game plan, but let me know in the comments, do you think it's all over, or do we still have a sliver of hope? I'll be looking forward to hearing that opinion, so let me know, and I would really appreciate it if you would like and subscribe and pass this on to your fellow Chief-loving fans. If you know some folks out there that can't live without their Kansas City Chiefs, please pass it on. I would appreciate that. And until next time, this is Carlton, and I am out.